Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia, and I have my friend here, Felice. Felice, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Felice Hightower Britt, also known as Real Talk with Felice.
Yes, and so today we're going to get right into it. I've been dying for such a long time to have a conversation with another therapist about this series, Married at First Sight. And right now we're in the middle of season 15, and I was looking at the success rate of those marriages on Married at First Sight because you'd think it'd be pretty strong, considering that Married at First Sight, they tell you that experts are putting together individuals so that they can get married to each other, and it's supposed to be an experiment using science. So they're using science that individuals sign up for Married at First Sight to be married at first sight. So that means they have no prior knowledge of who they're marrying until they walk down the aisle and they see each other. But they need not worry because these experts are going through a painful process of interviews, psychological tests, and different sort of information that they gather from people, and they're matched by experts to have a higher probability of success in marriage. So they're giving people exactly what they want. And the idea here is that now that you have a husband, now that you have a wife, what are you going to do? We're going to film the first 6 weeks or so of this arrangement to see if this experiment holds true, if experts can put people together and to see if those individuals are able to make this marriage work. And the idea is that if they put in the work, if they do what's necessary, that these marriages can actually be successful. And I've been looking at it since the very first season, so I've been watching. I haven't missed any an episode, and in looking at that, they don't have a better success rate for marriage than regular people who just find each other on Tinder or find each other just on any other kind of way where experts aren't putting you together. So one thing that's we're definitely seeing is that they do not have a better success rate than so what we're saying is that when experts put you together with someone, it should be viable. But I think their divorce rate is something like 70% divorce rate last I looked. And
it says right here, I'm going to read it. It says, over the 15 completed seasons of Married at First Sight, 59 couples have been matched. 43 of them, which is 73%, chose to stay married on decision day, out of which almost 2/3 have since divorced, filed for divorce, or announced their divorce. So as of February of 2023, there's only 12 married couples left, which is an overall success rate of 20%. So
20% success rate when the regular divorce rate, I think it's at 35% or 40% of individuals. So that is really, they are double. They have you have a higher chance of divorce having experts on Married at First Sight putting you together than if you just found somebody on your own.
Why do you think that is?
Well, number one, I did look into the process that they went into to put people together. First of all, they're putting people together based on whether they have things in common. Okay, and they're not necessarily putting people together based on whether they have values in common. And so I did notice that part, and I was just like, okay, so I like to go running and I'm outdoorsy. That doesn't mean that if you pair me with someone who's also outdoorsy, that doesn't guarantee success. And there's no science behind it, right? So that was one of the issues I found. Also, when I was there was one time I was listening to one of the experts matching people. The one lady, she says sometimes she uses her intuition She uses her intuition to kind of guide how she's matching people together. And I'm not certain that intuition is enough to match it. If it's supposed to be science-based, I don't see why intuition needs to also play a part. So I think part of the reason why divorce is so high is that I don't think these individuals are actually using science. And what science tells us is that it's the value system need to be somewhat similar. Also, what science is telling us is basically, how do you handle conflict? If you are the kind of person that's easily triggered, that's highly emotional, if you're someone that's not able to problem solve and not able to handle differences in a way that's mature, those individuals are going to have a great marriage anyway. And
but I also think that I would love to see what type of assessments they're given to see if people are really ready for the commitment that it takes in order. Because a lot of people, and I believe these individuals are young or between a specific age group, and a lot of times young people think that they're ready and convince themselves that they're ready for this commitment, but they're really not. It's a true, I believe it's a true desire. But I think it is a learned desire as well. It's a part of our societal culture that we are better if we're in a companionship or if we have somebody, but that doesn't necessarily make us ready. And so I think they have the desire, but then when they really get into the relationship and they see the work, the conflict resolution that it's going to take to get to the other side of a discussion, a debate, they really don't have the capacity, they don't have the energy, and they plain don't want to do the effort that it's going to take to get to the other side of disagreements, conflict, tensions, or just plain communications. And so they really need to do good assessments about how ready are these individuals, and do they want to put in the effort that it's going to take. I think they need to they need to have webinars on how to communicate better before they get into these arrangements, because I looked up arranged marriages, right? And they normally do pretty good. Like arranged marriages that are culturally arranged, like, our Indian ethnicities, they work. A lot of them work. So what's the difference between an arranged marriage and these married at first sight? Like, what's the difference? Can we learn from cultures that have arranged marriages and their success rates and what they do and how they pair their children up for marriage versus married at first sight? So there's some things I think they need to take into account that would help to increase their success rates. Because I don't think it's a horrible or totally off concept. I just think that for it to be as many seasons as it is and their success rate to be as low as it is, I don't think they're going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, what do we need to tweak? What are we missing? How can we do things better? Are there some assessments that we need to be doing instead of making it just feels like typical reality show, right? Like when you said intuition, that lady using intuition, was that intuition or was that the producer in your ear saying, hey, make sure Susie pairs up with Richard because this is going to be good for ratings? You get what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that they're doing that, and I'm hoping that they're not doing that, right? But we're not going to tune in if there's no drama. We're not going to tune in if everything was beautiful and lovely and actually worked. But I think that if they did have a higher success rate, there would be a higher demand. So I want married at first sight to work. They need to increase their success rates.
Yeah, and my thing is, I like what you say about are they ready? Because if they actually picked people who were ready to be married, I think their success rate would be much higher. And those who are ready to be married would have a high success rate, but at the same time, I don't think their ratings would be as high, because I think it would just be very boring. I like people who are very peaceful, who are good at conflict resolution. They're not exciting to look at. Like if a camera were to follow me around all day, they would say, geez, she didn't argue with a single person today. That was pretty boring. She handled that conflict in a way that was like, she listened well, she stayed calm. I would not make a really good reality person contestant. They would like, get her off the stage. She's boring. And that speaks to me, it speaks to this ethical consideration, because I do think, I'm thinking about someone who's not able to regulate their emotions, who are easily triggered and volatile. I'm thinking about the emotional suffering that they go through and the pain that they've probably experienced. I'm sure they have painful past memories, right? You put them on this show, you stick them into a room with a perfect stranger, and y'all expected to sleep in the same bed together? I mean, I don't know how people can even psychologically get through that without being absolutely damaged. So as a therapist, not only do I think it's not helpful to put these couples together in this way, but I also think that it's really damaging to them. I would love to have an interview with a lot of the people whose marriages fail, and to talk to them about how it psychologically damaged them to have all their business out. They're highly volatile. Maybe they're not good at regulating their emotions because God knows whatever is in their background, which people could easily find out from them. I could interview somebody in an hour and let you know right then and there they're not ready for a show like this, because it could be possibly triggering and damaging. I have actually seen on camera a lady totally spaz out. Just the idea of being with this man, because she just was totally triggered by this. And then I saw her get bullied online. After she had this emotional meltdown, I saw her online getting bullied. Like, what are you doing on this show? You have no business being on this show. You were mean to him. You were all this. And I really do think that she was grappling with something psychologically. And I don't know how I could ever be a therapist connected to that show and really think that this is an ethical way to treat somebody.
And so that's why I think the assessments, a psychological assessment, like you said, a readiness assessment, conflict resolution training, communication training, I think there should be some things before they get to the actual show. And also a lot of disclaimers about, are you really ready for this and what it means, right? And I think that thrusting people into these situations, there's a lot of pressure, right? That goes along with that too. Like, should I, shouldn't I? What's his or her expectation, right? Because a lot of the men are ready. Night one, after, if they choose to say I do, they ready. Each other. How about getting to know one another before you jump into a sexual relationship that has no intimacy, has no connection? It's really like a first night stand, or one night. It really is, and I can't imagine what that does to a person who you don't even know what their background is like, and whether or not they can handle that type of pressure of, do I be intimate or not? And then what really plays in their mind is that this is not just a regular person, this is my husband. So how do I not meet him at his need? He's my husband, or she's my wife. You get what I'm saying? That's a horrible mind game. But you don't know them. You don't know them. How do you give yourself to somebody you don't know? I mean, people do it all the time. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that it's a lot of pressure to be able to do that. And I think a lot of what goes on with Married at First Sight is unmet and unrealistic expectations about what this process is supposed to produce for them. And when they get into the thick of things, because relationships are real and they're work and they're emotional and they're messy. I mean, and they're good too, and they're wonderful, and they're all those things. And I just don't think that the show gives them the opportunity to explore the reality of what relationships can be. You're just thrusting them right into a crock pot, a pressure cooker.
Yeah, and they spend so much time saying, "Are you ready?" And they're saying, "Absolutely, I'm ready." But that's not an assessment if someone is ready. Like, they should be giving people feedback to say, "You say that you're ready, but here in this assessment, if they were actually using assessments, to show if they're ready, this assessment's telling me you're not flexible in your thinking, you're not good at compromise, you're not good at creating common ground." These are necessary things, the tools that you need to be married. And when they throw them together, they just send them on to some vacation in Jamaica somewhere, and then they don't even follow up. I'm thinking, if I was connected to this show and I was a therapist, and I heard that these random people were thrown together and sent to some island, it seemed like to me that there should be helping professionals, not the producers. Because I remember watching that show and having the producers step in and say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And I'm thinking, I don't think this is the job of a producer. I think a trained therapist need to step in. Someone who's trained in conflict management, someone who's trained in assessing the situation, because I've seen a lot of abusive situations happen right there in Mexico or in Bahamas or wherever they send them on these vacations. It was supposed to be their honeymoon. I'm not seeing where a person can come in and protect people. Like, the things that people say and the things that fall out before they even go into these apartments, where cameras are on them, which I think magnifies the trauma even more. I'm just going to use the word trauma. I think they're traumatizing these individuals. It's a very strong word. And I really think it's amazing no one has ever sued them of psychological distress because they're not using science the way they say they're using science. I guarantee you those people are psychologically damaged and need to be on somebody's couch by the time these shows are over, because not only did you experience it, but then you have to re-experience it by having it now broadcast on nationwide television, and then you have the aftermath of that. I can't imagine how probably ruined these people are in relating to relationships after this whole damage is done. And
so I'm gonna pose a tough question to you, Dr. Alicia. At what point do you put the accountability on the person making the choice to be on these shows? At what point do you hold them responsible for themselves and these outcomes?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to meet people. Think about this now. We're in an era we're just coming off of the Me Too movement. And it's funny because I was talking to my mama about it, and she was like, she's 80, so she's like old school, She's like, shoot, I don't think there would be any man trying to approach a woman at all, these days. It may be very tough. So you're in this situation where dating world is changing. And there are people who feel lonely and alone and they're uncomfortable. I was talking to my son about Married at First Sight, and all of us, we think it's like ridiculous, but he was like, I wouldn't be opposed to someone just kind of setting it all up for me, because he's probably thinking, I don't want to have to go through all of this. Like, it's daunting for a man to have to try to go through the whole process of dating and all of that. That can be very daunting. So I think you have this vulnerable group of people and you're selling them and telling them, hey, we can use science to get you that perfect match. Okay, and these people don't love you. So in arranged marriages, like you talked about before, it's your mama and your daddy who loves you that's putting it together. They're not putting it together for some reality show to get ratings so they can get more money. They're putting things together because you grew up with these families. You know who they are. You can select based on this. You have longevity with your children. Right? And you have longevity with the people who are friends of yours, who you're setting your child up. So, I would hope to think that maybe this is arranged marriages is more successful because you got people with your best interest at heart. I'm not certain that these people have their best interests, and I think they're. I do. Every time I think about it, I just walk away from it. Like, I would be. Listen, if I was part of that show, and some of those people were as traumatized as they say they are, I would feel totally guilty. But it seems as if the experts, instead of admitting that maybe they put somebody together that shouldn't have been together, I never hear that from the quote unquote experts who put them together. I've not once in the 15 seasons, because I've watched every episode, not once heard a professional say, you know what? I thought this was a good match for you, but you know what? I was wrong. They have never said that. Pastor Cal and all those people, they say, well, the reason why it's not working is because you figure it out and you do this and you do that. They're being defensive. And whenever I see that, it just steams me up and it bothers me. And that's the reason why I really want to talk about this, because Pastor Cal, at any moment, they could step in, even if they don't understand conflict resolution. They should step in and film an expert coming in and actually teaching them about conflict resolution and being there with them and coaching them along. That would have been it would have been a beautiful way, even if the marriage dissolved itself in divorce. Right? At least these people can walk away knowing that they processed it, that they understand what happened, and not just kind of like on decision day, just look on people's faces, the pain in their eyes, they're crying, there's tissue everywhere, they're so sad, their heart is broken, and it's all filmed. They need to take accountability for their part in setting themselves up with somebody who I don't think should be in a relationship with anybody, some of these people.
I think you're onto something. I just think too that this generation, this is their thing. Like, not saying that they don't understand, yes, we should have professionals along the way in some of these things. But like, I'm always in awe, right, of this younger generation's lack of privacy. Like, they're growing up. This is what they're used to. This is something that it just is. Like, they let you know what they're doing every second of the day. So if it wasn't Married at First Sight, it's certainly on Instagram. It's certainly on Facebook. It's certainly on Snapchat. It's on TikTok. So they got all these social media things that if it wasn't Married at First Sight, they're letting everybody into their personal lives on a daily basis. This is just, I don't think that aspect of it is something that they're aware of the possibility of it affecting them, because it's a part of their culture. It's a part of what they do. And they don't have those qualms about privacy. They know full well that this is into the land of internet for eternity. They know that. They know that it's going to be turned over and over and over again. But it's just something, there's a naivety about them, about what it really means when that stuff is out there in the universe and how it can come back to bite them. Because I talk to clients all the time. I'm like, did you not know that employers go on your Instagram accounts to see that you just drank 5 tequilas and you may not be a good fit for their company? Like, did you not know that you've got to clean? Like, they just really don't know that. And they don't know the impact of it because it just is a part of their lives. And so some of it, I think, is a naivety, but I also think it's a part of their culture. So I'm going to give Married at First Sight some slack about it's in the internet world realm. I'll give them some slack with that. But I do believe that if they are claiming that this is science, then they need to go back to the drawing board and they need to figure out what's working, what's not working, and how do we make this a better way, or at least a higher success rate, and or how do we make sure that we leave these individuals in a better or a safe space, whether things go well or they don't. How do we make sure they're okay afterwards? So I think that would be nice for them to do.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I just think that would be a good thing for them to do. But I mean, it's not just Married at First Sight. I mean, I just saw, what did I just see on Netflix? Perfect Match.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
And I don't know, I'm like, why would anybody do that show? It's just so traumatizing. Like, you're talking about, okay, how are we going to be a perfect match? But after every day, you can bring in somebody new to challenge a relationship that you're trying to match. So these people come in, they match up, saying, hey, I think we're compatible. And then at the end of the night, they have a little activity to see who's going to win. And whoever wins that activity or challenge, they get to go into the room to the board and decide, okay, which of these relationships we're going to test. So we're going to bring in 2 new people who can not only challenge their relationship, but all of the relationships that are trying to be cultivated as well. Can you imagine the emotional wear and tear you can possibly go through? You think you're making a connection, somebody new comes in and you find out, boom, oh no, they really want some greener grass. So I think all these shows, like, they all, to my, can be quite emotionally traumatizing. All of them, I'm going to be the first to say, I know I'm not helping because I just boosted the rating by not only watching the show, but binge watching it. Okay.
Yeah, I love, it's so funny. As much as I critique these shows, I like to watch. I've watched 90 Day Fiance, which is fascinating. Like, I've watched all of this stuff, which is what I talked about when I spoke about the Passport Brothers. I'm like, they need to watch 90 Day Fiance and they'll change their mind about a lot of stuff. But yeah, I think my thing, I don't know, I'm such a social worker at heart, and I just feel like, I want the world to do the most humane thing to people as possible. But that flies in the face of capitalistic views. And the bottom line, all of this is fun. I mean, think about Flavor of Love. That was this stuff is interesting. I didn't miss an episode of Flavor of Love, right? So, it's a train wreck.
Me either.
And I'm watching all of it.
What happened to Flavor Flav? We need to come back. But I think he might be in a happy relationship now. I think he found the one.
Yeah, he and Bridget Nelson, right? Remember they were together. If anyone remembers that, unlikely couple, but they had all the views, and so that does kind of make me wonder about, like, when people who sign up for these shows, maybe they see this as an opportunity to audition. Like, I'm gonna sign up for the show, but I'm actually doing it to audition. And maybe their intentions aren't necessarily to really fall in love and get married. Maybe their intention is to get their 5 minutes of fame so that they can capitalize off of it. So maybe it's like, okay, you're gonna capitalize off of me and my drama and trauma and all of that. I'm gonna capitalize off of you by trying to do whatever I can to grow my business, to grow my ideas. So it would be really interesting to see if people are weighing out the cost benefit, and if they're looking at it more of an audition for a television show rather than really finding love.
I don't know, because another one of my favorites is y'all Ready to Love. You watch that?
I watched one episode of it and I was like, oh my God, I got to put this on my to-watch list because it was so good.
So I watched that religiously, and one of my favorite couples we're on season 7 or season 6 actually have branched out to another show. So they were one of the few couples on Ready to Love that are now engaged, but then now they're on Married to DC or something. So they actually did get to go to another show because of their appearance on one. But I do think that their love is genuine, right? I do think that this is what happens. I think some people are multifaceted in, like, they want to be seen, they want the publicity, and they want love too. And sometimes all 3 works out for them, right? But I do think that there's a secret desire to audition, because you don't have to go that route to find love. I mean, if you just really want to find love, I don't think that would be the way to do it. If you just want to be on the down low and find love like everybody else, I don't think that's the vehicle that you should do it on. So I think that everybody who comes on the show has some secret desire to get some sort of fame and or recognition. Because you mean, you got Tinder, you have Match, you have eHarmony, you've got Bumblebee, like you got Facebook. I mean, all you have to do is slide into somebody's DMs and people are matching up. You have too many different outlets and options to find love than to get on TV.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the 12 couples that are together. After all of that, I mean, that's got to be telling. So maybe the people are defensive because they're like, maybe they feel like they got fooled. Maybe the experts are like, I believed them and what they said, and maybe they weren't really in it for the right reasons. So maybe they are defensive for a reason. I don't know. I just think that
think about it. Mm-hmm. But think about it for us. We really hope and pray that when our clients come before us, mm-hmm. that their intentions are pure and that they're telling the truth. And so I tell my clients all the time, like, I said, I'm just going to believe that you are really sharing the truth and you're not just telling me something that you think I should hear. Mm-hmm. And I have to give them the disclaimers that it'll come out in the wash. Because you're not going to get the outcome you desire if you're not being honest, transparent, and pure about your reasons for these moments. And so it comes out in the wash. And I tell them all the time, I can only go by what you say. And so I purposely just know and believe. Now, in my gut, sometimes I'm sitting on the other side saying, they know, they're not telling me the truth. But I can't say that. You can't say that. You just have to be like, okay, I'm going to take you as a blank slate, mm-hmm. and I'm truly going to believe that you're telling me the truth in these moments. And so you just never know.
Yeah, I really do think clients do edit what they say to you. And it's interesting because usually how I get down to the bottom of it, and I'll just be like, give me an example of what you're talking about. And then I'll say, what did they actually, okay, I know that's what you felt, but what did they actually say? And usually when I dial down into the specifics, that's when I go, oh, okay. And, sometimes clients want to impress us, so they show up with this veneer.
Right.
And it's a veneer, and good therapists like yourself, we're able to cut right on through that and see that, because really when you show up to therapy with this veneer, it's a resistance.
Yes.
And you can't really create change in their life, because whatever their presenting problem, so their presenting problem could be, my fiance just broke up with me. And I thought everything was going okay. And out of the blue, my fiance broke up with me. Now, as a therapist, that don't make sense. I'm thinking, were there some signs along the way that you weren't paying attention to? Because so many of us live in denial.
Yes.
And so you have to say, okay, you went to this place of denial because along the way, they were really telling you that things weren't going well. But how did you handle that? Oh, you ignored it. Right. Oh, you looked the other way. Oh, you changed the subject when they were trying to bring things up to you. And so that's when you have to say, hey, if you want me to help you process this painful thing, we have to look at how denial functions in your life.
Right.
And hopefully they can open up to you a little more.
And you have to let them know that sometimes, a lot of times, counseling is going to reveal things, right, that you're not ready to hear or have revealed. And so all of our sessions are not going to be kumbaya moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you have to be okay and not want to run away and let go of the progress you've made because it now feels uncomfortable, because good therapy does feel uncomfortable, because it's tapping into something that we need to work through. And we're actually helping you to practice how to work through tension, how to walk through and get through the other side of things that are difficult, that are challenging. And that's the practice. But you get to do it in a safe, non-judgmental, and welcoming space. And that's what we provide for you. We provide that space for you to practice how to do that. So if you can do it here with us, you're getting more and more equipped to do it out there on your own with loved ones, peers, coworkers, right? And so that's what I try and tell my clients, that it's not going to feel good, and it shouldn't feel good all the time.
Yeah.
You should feel a little bit of discomfort and know that that's okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully.
Yeah, I love that we prepare them for what's going to happen. Say, let me tell you what's going to happen. Our work together is going to be uncomfortable.
We can let those married at first sight clients, we can, future clients, let them know, hey, we're here for you.
Yes.
You've experienced some type of trauma. I'm serious. If you've experienced some type of trauma, or you're wrestling with unresolved feelings that occurred from the outcome of this show, we're here for you.
Yes.
We are, because we care about you. We want to make sure that you're okay, and to let you know that there's still hope and optimism for you to find your true love that is still available to you.
You
and
can trust again.
Yes. And that what didn't break you only makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And more prepared for the one, because that's what you want. You want the one. And you may have to go through some frogs before you get to the one, but it doesn't have to be traumatic.
Yeah, and I think they're offering people an easy fix to something that's very complicated. It's so hard out there, trying to find. From what I'm hearing from my single friends, they're like, man, it's a mess out there. You don't know what you're gonna get into. There's all these. A friend of mine was telling me about, she went through a whole rash of men with all these fetishes and these weird kind of awkward sort of things, and she was like, man, I can't deal with another foot fetish guy or whatever. She's like, people have a lot of baggage that they haven't dealt with, and it's a barrier to having a deep connection in a relationship with other people. So, I understand why this would be very appealing to them. And I do remember some people on Married at First Sight who come back on the reunion shows that actually say, I had to go to therapy because of what happened to me. I got dumped on nationwide TV after I gave my body to this person and trusted them, and how humiliated I was in front of my friends and family, who many of them said, told you so, like they were like, I'm still going through this now. And I love the people that can get on the show and be honest about what's happened to them and being wiser. They seem wiser when they come back for those reunion shows. Yeah. Well,
this has been some interesting dialogue with you. Like, you come up with some really good topics that future for us to dig through.
Really, I've been going through 15 seasons of the show, and I'm like, I really want to talk to another therapist about this show. And so I appreciate you just diving into and helping me. I've learned from you, so helping me kind of digest and tease all of this out, and I need to process it as just a viewer of the show for 15 seasons, and I'll be there for the next 15, because I'm a relationship therapist, and so I have to watch this stuff.
Right, and it does help you to stay relevant, right? Yeah. Because you're able to tap in and see and know what these individuals are going through when it comes to relationships, and you'll be able to speak to it. So kudos to you.
Well, kudos to you too for indulging me today. So thank you so much, Felice. Tell everybody, if they want to get in contact with you, tell everybody how they can get in contact with you.
Thank you. So Real Talk with Felice, of course, Instagram, Twitter. I have a website, realtalkwithfelice.com. And I'm on Psychology Today. as well. So if you look up Felice Hightower Britt, you can find me there. So reach out.
Excellent. And then you can find me with Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I know our tags are going to be displayed down here, so you can find me there. And of course, in the bio is all the information about how to reach out to me on Instagram. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.